The Canterville Ghost. That night, they all went to bed at 11 o'clock, and by 11:30, all the lights were out. Sometime later, Mr. Otis was awakened by a curious noise in the corridor outside his room. It sounded like the rattle of metal and seemed to be coming nearer every moment. He got up at once, struck a match, and looked at the time. It was exactly 1 o'clock. The strange noise still continued, and with it he heard the sound of footsteps. He put on his shoes, took a small bottle out of his case, and opened the door. Right in front of him he saw, in the pale moonlight, a terrible old man. His eyes were as red as burning fire. Long grey hair fell over his shoulders. His clothes were old-fashioned, dirty and ragged. Heavy chains hung from his wrists and ankles. "My dear sir," said Mr. Otis, "I really must insist on you putting some oil on those chains. I have brought you a small bottle of Tammany Rising Sun Oil. I shall leave it here for you by the bedroom candles, and will be happy to bring you some more if you need it." He laid the bottle down on a table and, closing his door, went back to bed. For a moment, the Canterville Ghost stood quite still. Then he threw the bottle upon the polished floor and ran down the corridor, making low, groaning noises and glowing green in the darkness. Just as he reached the top of the great oak staircase, a door opened. 2 little children dressed in white appeared, and a pillow flew past his head. There was no time to be lost, so he disappeared through the wall, and the house became quite quiet. On reaching a small secret room, he leaned against a moonbeam to get his breath back. Never, in all his 300 years of haunting, had anyone been so rude to him. He thought of the Duchess whom he had frightened badly as she stood before her mirror in her lace and diamonds. He thought of the 4 housemaids who had screamed when he had smiled at them through the curtains of one of the spare bedrooms. Then there was the man whose candle he had blown out as he was on his way from the library, and who had been ill ever since. And now, after all this, some awful Americans had come and had offered him the Rising Sun Oil, and had thrown pillows at his head. It was too awful. Besides, no ghost in history had ever been treated in this manner.